Hello everyone and welcome back to Triton TV. Feeling a little spunky today, so let's go ahead and program some Titans of CNC parts. So I went ahead and went to their website and pulled up the Titan-1-1M, as you can see on screen now. So I'm going to keep this off on my second monitor. Let's go ahead and program this. I went ahead and saved a file in my little folder that I already have set up. For the mastercam learning edition. You know what, let's make a new folder. Titans of CNC parts. Here we go. So whatever, I'll move that into there, go back to the desktop, and let's go ahead and delete this so that all my Titans of CNC parts are in this folder. Just make sure you always know where your files are going. Anyway, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to merge here, and I'm going to go ahead and I like to have a folder called fixturing for any blocks and whatnot. And you'll notice nothing is showing up here. The first thing I'm going to do is switch to all files and then step files and all kinds of other different types of things. So I'm going to go ahead and pull in a Kurt Weiss here. I don't care much where it goes. Even the fact that it's at some angle, I'm not going to worry about that. I really don't care. I'm just going to let it come in there. Oh gosh, I hate this. See how we have like a bajillion levels? Let's go to level 10. And we're just going to make a level called Kurt DX6. This drives me nuts. Some files do this, some don't. So what we're going to do first is, so we're going to select everything on screen. And then I'm going to right click on the change levels icon, and I'm going to move it to the active level. Boom, everything is all on this level. And then what I'm going to do real quick is go in and delete the name of every single other level, and you'll see why in a sec here. So we can go ahead and delete these guys. I might fast forward through this. Oop. There's probably a faster way to do this, but normally there's not this many levels. It's kind of obnoxious actually. I don't remember having to do this many. Oop. Here we go, almost there. And the reason why I'm doing this is, let's see here. The reason I'm doing this is when you have unnamed levels, there's a cool little function. First thing I'm going to do is turn all levels off, turn this one on, and I'm going to refresh the levels list, and now it's gotten rid of all the other. So I'm going to call this the Titan-1-1M. This is going to be our, actually this is going to be our geo, and then level 5 is going to be our solid. There we go. I'm going to click on number twice to reorganize those. I'm going to hit Control S again, and I'm going to go ahead and save it, and you'll notice it pops this menu up, and when I click save, it's going to ask me if I'm sure. And the reason why is because when you go to merge, it knows you've modified the file in such a way that you could, I don't know, not be wanting to save it that way. So a couple things too, I'll explain. I've been using software for a long time, so some of these things I might just blast through, and then people are like, how'd you do that? Couple things here. So I just want to explain toolpath manager, levels manager, planes manager, and then maybe some right click things. I have mine all customized. Perhaps if people ask really nicely, I can send them the customization file that'll give you this right-click menu. I don't care about the views because I know the hotkeys. It's like Alt-1 through Alt-7. There you go. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to get a plane that is perpendicular to this face of the vise. I don't even care about the normal planes. I rarely ever use them. And while we're on the planes manager, I'll just show you my follow rules. I like all of them except for this one. I hate this one. As soon as you change views, it will update your construction plane and it'll drive you nuts. And I also have my gnomon customized a little bit smaller than normal. Change the number, and I don't show planes unless if I highlight the gnomon. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here into the planes manager. I'm going to create a plane from solid face, and I can either select this or this. I want to be centered in X, so I think this will be a little bit easier. And I'm going to rotate that plane where I want it, and we're going to call this op1. And since I'm used to 5-axis stuff, I'm actually going to explicitly call this offset 1, because in a 5-axis mill, you have to relate your work coordinate system to your tool plane. And if they're different numbers, it's not going to pick up the dynamic rotation. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and push OK. I'm going to make this my work coordinate system, construction plane, and tool plane. And while we're here, we might as well talk about the difference between these two. The work coordinate system in mastercam is where you're actually going to set an offset in the CNC machine. Right? Construction plane is where you are going to draw things, and it's also related to this right here. I hate this. I just transform and move things where I want them, but you could type a number in here and it'll draw those things in relation to what construction plane is active at that Z level. I hate it, drives me nuts, and it's really annoying. So I turn that off. I like to make sure we're in 3D. And then the tool plane is where the tool paths are coming from. And then, you know, you can turn section views on or off to cut things according to the plane that you turn that on. But you have to have the section view on, and there's a few settings here like show caps where it'll, see if I can do that again. It'll fill in these. So if you turn show caps off, it'll look through there. So anyway, just a couple of functionality things here. I don't want that on. So being the person I am, I like to set things up the way I want. I don't care much about the Z value right now. We can either move the work coordinate system to where it's going to be, or just draw the part and then move the vise to where we need it, which is probably what I'm going to do. So we're just going to go ahead, and I don't like this actually. This is, if you move whatever you use to create this plane and it's associative, the plane will move with the thing, which is not a bad thing. I just don't like it, so I turn it off. Drives me nuts. Go ahead and save it again. I like to save a lot. And I think I'm going to delete this guy and delete that guy. All right, so let's go to the levels manager, and should be self-explanatory, but whenever this X is there, this is visible. So we're going to go ahead and turn off the solid, and we're going to go ahead and we'll get into the machine and whatnot here in a sec. So anyway, our main level is now the geometry that I'm going to use to extrude a solid. So I'm going to go ahead and look from the top, and we want a rectangle, and I have that here in my right click, but it's also up here in the wireframe. I don't normally use this, so some of the things I don't, it's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and right click. We're going to make a rectangle. I'm going to look at the print. It is 4 inches wide, and it is 1.9 inches, or 4 inches wide and 1.9 inches tall. And I'm going to anchor it to the center. Boom. And then I'm going to push OK. I'm going to highlight this, right click, transform, translate. I'm going to copy it down the thickness of the part. Boom. And if you don't know where and one thing to note, There's a reason why these colors exist after you transform something. This is the transformed geometry. There's some advanced selection functions here on the right, and I can select all entities. Yeah, select all advanced is pretty cool. So I can click this transform group, or I can click the transform result. So there's a reason why those colors exist. If you just clear colors immediately, I believe that disables that. Yeah, because it's not flagged like that. So anyway, I have the generic outline of the part, just the top and the bottom. And if we want to be a stickler here, we can go ahead and draw from corner to corner, just so we have a nice wireframe of the part. Boom. That is the wireframe of the Titan 1M. And if we don't like the color we're drawing in, you can always change the color that you're drawing in. Let's go ahead and go with, I like some of these. Let's go ahead and do this. And then if you select everything, you can right click and just click on the color. It doesn't matter which pane you're in, if it's wireframe color or whatever. So we'll go ahead and select that. Save it again. So if I want to make a solid of this, it's actually pretty easy. And you're going to learn a pretty cool hotkey here in a sec. Alt-E is what I call a temporary level. It's technically called, I believe it is, let's see if I can find it. I think it's in home actually. Yeah, so it's called hide unhide. I just can think of it as a temporary level. And what it does is it will, if you have something selected and you click it, it will only show that. And then if you click it again, it will bring everything back. But the cool thing is if you're like, oh, I wanted to select the top, wireframe, and then you push it, shoot, I need to click a few more. You can always re-highlight, turn it, unhide, click on a few more things, hide again. So it's a really good way to kind of only focus on a few things. So anyway, now that I have, excuse me, now that I have that top wireframe selected, I'm going to go to the solids thing and I'm going to extrude. Typically, it doesn't matter which direction you pick. I think there's a default, so clockwise might be up. Yeah. And then no big deal, I can just click reverse and tell it the thickness of the part. So now we have a solid of the part, and if I was smart, I would have changed my level first. We're going to go ahead and move it to there. I like to separate things out so that if I just want to see the geometry, I can turn off the other level. If I just want to see the solid, I can turn off the wireframe. And the way that works is this check mark is the active level, the main level, if you will. What is it? What is it called? Let's see. I think it's called the, active level. Okay. So now we have our wireframe and our solid, and the vise is almost where we want it. Almost. Actually, we need one more thing. Let's go ahead and pick out a size of stock. I don't care what the website says. I'm a professional programmer. I don't need to use what they say. And I like my stock to be red. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a wireframe of the stock as well. We can do analyze distance like this, have all of our dimensions on screen. So let's give about 1/4 of an inch in every direction and maybe a little bit, 1/4 of an inch is fine in thickness. So we're going to do 4 1/4. We'll just round this up. We'll do 2 1/4 by 1. So I'll go ahead and create another rectangle. And actually, let's see, Titan 1-1M stock. Boom. And that's my main level. So we're going to do 4 1/4 by 2.25, right? We're going to anchor about center, click OK. Boom. And then I'm not going to worry about moving this up or down just yet. Cool thing about selection functionalities is I have this right here, select chain, boom, I can select the entire chain. I don't remember where that's at other than here. I think it's here. Yeah. So you'd have to click on that. I just like it to switch between it really quick right here. So we're going to go ahead and translate that, or we can project it, very similar functions. Translate is incremental from where you're at. Project is related to the plane. So in this case, it'd do the exact same thing, but if we were at some z distance other than 0, they would do slightly different functions. So I'm going to go ahead and translate it, and I'm going to copy it down in z. What did I say? 1 inch minus 1 point. Hit enter. Click OK. So now at this point, I would come to the front view, and numbers aren't always perfect, but in this instance, we know we have a quarter of an inch extra stock. I typically want to center the part about the stock, unless if I really only have enough to hold on one side. So we basically would have 1/8 of an inch on both sides, but that's about what I'd be holding on to. So this is one of those instances where, excuse me, I'd say, you know what, we only want to face off 50 thou. So I'd go ahead and make sure I'm in chains, click on both, translate, move them both up 50 thou, boom. There we go. That is the stock all set up there. Then at this point, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and move the vise where we want it. So the first thing I'm going to do is analyze from here. I want the front of the back jaw, and I can always toggle the wireframe on and off, or translucency, which is maybe doing the wireframe. So I want to know to the stock. So we'll click this red guy here. I'm going to copy that value. I'm going to turn the solids back on, and then I can go up here and I can right click, select all entities, right click, translate, move NY, the copied value. So now I know the back jaw is touching, if I got the number right, I think it is. Yeah, should be touching the back of the stock. I can push OK. Sometimes solids take a sec to update, and then you'll notice the vise has changed colors because it's a transform result. I can right click, clear colors. I'm going to do the same thing for the front. Make sure I'm getting the actual part of the vise. I don't care where it's at in X. I just want to know the Y value. So it's going to be that. Control C. Click on everything to do with the movable jaws. Looks like we got the bolts too. I think that's it. Yeah. Transform, translate. Move it up. Boom. Now we know that the op1 vise setup is to the right opening, but the Z value is not correct. And that's something I was going to change earlier. So this is going to be, maybe I'll put this in parentheses, op1. Save it. So now I want to know how far it is from the bottom of the stock to the top of the jaws. So it's 950 thou. So we can do it like this. We can select all entities for the vise. We can transform, translate, minus 950. And if we're going to be using an inch and 5/8 parallels to roughly hold on to 1/8 of an inch, it's not 1/8 of an inch, it's 0.115. We would move the part down, or we would add 0.115 to this. And I'll go over that in a sec once this is moved. So I'm going to right click, clear colors again, Control S. That way if the computer crashes, everything's saved. So I'm going to analyze from the ways of the jaw, of the vise, if you will, up to the bottom of the stock. 1.62. We're close. We're within 5 thou of what I said. What did I check here? 115. Maybe these aren't the same as the old ones. Oh no, they are. 1.735. I'm going to move this up, or I'm going to move the vise down another 5 thou. Yeah, Select all NDs, translate, move 005. There we go. As soon as this is done, I'm going to double check that distance. There we go. Inch and 5/8 parallels would leave us holding on to 110 thou minus the chamfer. So about 90 thou, which is more than enough in most instances. And the one thing I want to point out now is the bottom of the real part is about 90 thou above the vise, and I want to profile 50 past. So that's going to leave the tools 40 thou above the jaws. Plenty, plenty, plenty of room. So now I'm going to save. And in this instance, we only really need like 2 tools. Let's say we're only making one of these. So we've talked a little bit about the planes managers. I have a custom plane that I've made. I extruded my part. It's where I want it to be. The vise is where I want it. I have my levels nice and named here. What I'm going to do is go to the toolpaths. I have my, let's see, start and exit set to start with the mill. And the machine, let's see if I can remember. Yeah, default machine is just the mill default. This is where you would set which machine you want to start so that if you open mastercam, it would start with mill or lathe, and then whatever machines for mill, lathe, whatever you have set. So it's a good way to have mastercam set up to automatically do the thing. Yeah, this is the learning edition, so we can't open the editor and we can't post code. Anyway, just wanted to show that real quick. So I have mine set up to call the default machine group. Yeah, this is a machine group, and then toolpath groups reside in the machine group. And the way I name mine is typically op1 and op2, blah, 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 blah. Different machine groups. Typically, the only time I do different machine groups for milling is, let's say, I get a new group, and this one would be called, oh, that's annoying. This one could be like fixture stuff. So that's where you could have a totally different stock setup and whatnot. But yeah, so we have a wireframe of our stock, but we haven't actually told this setup what our stock is. So I'm going to go here. Any of these, we're going to go through all these. So I'll click on Files, and this is where you would make sure your post is set. You can change your default program number. These would be the end block numbers. I never use master model. I don't really see much of a need for it, but we can click on stock setup. And let's see, they've changed this a bit. Let's create a rectangular stock from this guy here. And you notice how it gives us our X and Y. Oh, let's see. Oh gosh. So this is where it would have paid off to make everything normal to the top plane. That's okay. We will do this on the, here, let's get out of this. That's funny. Whatever. A faster way to do this would be to just extrude the stock. So what did I say? It's 1 inch. Yeah. Copy the 1 inch. I'm gonna turn everything else off. I'm gonna go to solids. I'm gonna extrude this. There's a bunch of different ways to set up stock, but this is one way that I don't mind doing it. And I'm gonna color the stock red. Turn everything back on. Save it. Go back to Toolpath Manager, stock setup. And I'm just gonna click on this. So we already know where our stock is. I don't care much about all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. This is where you could add fixturing. So I could say like, hey, these are my fixtures, and this is for verify and the machine simulator and whatnot. Don't necessarily have to do it, but it's kind of cool. So that's all set up. I'm going to go ahead and turn on this, assign tool number sequentially, and use tool step pack and coolant. This would be where you would set up simulation. One of the videos I did, I was using this Hermela machine. Sure, why not? We'll just push OK. All right, so now we have our stock set up. We have a machine picked. It's time to start toolpathing. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the stock. And I can go to toolpaths and turn on this shading, which is cool. It's a non-selectable graphical entity. But if you ever, want to double check that kind of stuff, that's where that stock setup page comes in, and you can always move it. But I like to move things in physical space and have a physical representation, like how I did at least the wireframe. A lot of times I'll put the solid on a different level so I can just see the wireframe. But anyway, we have our stock set up, we have our part in space, we have it drawn. Now it's time to start toolpathing. So I like to do toolpaths like this. You can do them up here, but I'm so used to doing this. We want to face the part off. I believe it should pick up our stock. It used to say it, they've changed the way this works. So we're going to go ahead and pick a 1/2 inch end mill. And you notice how I already numbered it as tool 1. And we're going to edit, we're going to edit the tool. Always, always, always. We'll just leave these as default for now. But the main thing is, you want to set your speeds and feeds for the tool. You can set this stuff, but I don't worry too much about that. Main thing I worry about is RPM, flutes, and then feed rates. So I'll set the roughing feed rate. I like to set like that. And it's nice to know these are all lining up. And I like to shorten things up, 1/2 inch end mill. And if it's a rougher, I would call it like rough. If it's a finisher, I'd call it fin. Anyway, this is where you turn your coolant on. If you do this and you have that use tool step peck and coolant, this tool will always turn on coolant. It's nice. And if the numbers didn't already update, I could right click and reinitialize speeds and feeds. So this will be our rough face. You notice how I already said that? That was probably the last facing toolpath, what I called it. Holders, let's see, should we pick a holder? Sure, let's pick a holder. This looks like let's pick like a ER, excuse me. Sure, that's gonna be our holder right there. Let's say the thing is sticking out 2 inches. Boom. So we're going to cut parameters. This is our rough face. We're gonna leave 10. And we're just gonna leave these as default. I wanna do a 75% step over. I believe 180 is the angle I like. I like high-speed loops. You can do linear. I just like high-speed loops. I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels. We're not going to do depth cuts. These should automatically populate based off your stock, but if you're ever unsure, you could always right-click and like pick the Z value of something on the screen. That's also why I like to have at least a wireframe. So it is there. Couple things on the parameters here. So I like retract of 1/2 inch absolute. Feed plane incremental is kind of nice because it's incremental from where the toolpath is going to start. So if, let's say my stock was at 495 and I had this absolute of 0.1, it actually wouldn't be above the stock, but incremental would. So I go back and forth between incremental and absolute. Anyway, basically telling the machine, hey, do zigzags 75% wide of the tool, start at this angle. I believe it's going to be from the front right. Yeah. And then cut 50 thou. I don't worry about too much of this stuff, but you'll notice coolant is on. So we'll go ahead and push OK. Oh, haha, that's funny. They changed the way this works. It used to just pick it up way better than it does now. Okay, let's do this. Yeah, mastercam used to be a lot better about this. See, I have the stock set up. It's for some reason not picking it up. That's okay. We'll go ahead and pick this guy, and we're not going to show anything else, and we'll just go ahead and add this guy. No big deal. Turn everything back on, regen. Now we got a toolpath. You'll notice I don't have toolpaths displayed. I hate having toolpaths displayed just from clicking on them. If I want to see them, I run backplot. So you notice we have our tool. We have our step overs here. That's a 75% step over, I think. Let's turn off the stock. I guess we can do, oops. We can do that if we want to see it a little better. So yeah, we'll face the part like that. And nice thing is these values are, you know, real. So you can look on this page and see where you're at, see your feed rate, or look down here and it'll be where the tool's at. So there we go. We've got the top of the thing roughed. And you know what? I didn't do this a second ago, but I'm going to go ahead and make another level. So I like to add fillets to corners and not do it in the toolpath. I just like doing it. There's a few reasons why. It's just how I like doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and add another level, and we're going to call it level 3. Whatever. I'm just going to call it profile. Boom. So what I'm going to do is take this guy, and I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to turn off the geometry, and I'm going to change the color. I love this color. Okay, so I'm going to add a 10 thou fillet. It's right up here in wireframe. It's a normal fillet. 10 thou, we're going to trim. We're going to trim this guy to that guy. This is a glitch, drives me nuts. So if the solid is on, it'll do this. They really screwed this up. So I'm going to push Control Z. I'm going to hide the solid and do the exact same thing. And you'll notice it'll actually trim the fillet. It drives me nuts. This happened a few years ago, and they're not going to change it probably. Whatever. And they're red, that's okay. So now I have the profile of the part. So when I toolpath, I'm just going to do a contour. Now I can lead in on this corner. This is why I like drawing actual fillets. It's nice because it doesn't leave a witness mark. So we're going to go ahead and leave that. This is going to be rough profile. And we're going to leave 10 thou on the walls. And we're going to ramp. Let's just do a ramp of 50 thou. Oh, wow. These aren't set. Let's turn this off. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Takes a sec. I don't have my default set. So now my defaults will be set to ramp, one way, blah, 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 blah. I like this. We're going to enter and exit at midpoint. We're going to do a 10 thou overlap. I like 100% length, 10% radius at 90 degrees for this type of stuff. Leaving 10, going straight to depth. Okay. Now, even though our stock is at 10 thou, I'm just going to say 0. I'm going to right click down here and add 50, or in this case, subtract 50. So we're going 50 past the part. Okay, so we have a contour toolpath, haul and butt, leaving 10 thou on the walls, ramping 50. I'm going to save that again, actually. Okay. We're ramping 50, leading in right at the corner. 10 thou overlap at the midpoint. What that means, I'll show you in a sec. Yeah, coolant's on. Same tool, no tool change. Boom, save it again. Look at the toolpath here. So you can see how we're coming in at this point, and I want to explain a few things too. So this yellow section here, when this is, I guess it's on. This yellow section here, let's go back. I'm using the B and S keys to step forward and back. You'll notice we're at 1/2 inch. What that is that point is our retract plane. And then the next one, we're at 100 thou, is our feed plane, right? And we're feeding to top of stock at 100 thou. And now we're going to lead in, right? We're leading in right at the corner. We're going to turn the holder off. And this is our little arc that we told it here. It's a 50 thou arc. Right? So if you were to look at the code, it would tell you to go to this point and it would be doing a 50 thou arc. And then we're going to start driving the tool around the part from there. I love leading in like this because you don't get a witness mark. So anyway, then the tool is going to ramp around the part, staying 10 thou away from the profile, and also staying 50 away from our vise here. Boom. Roughing done. And in this instance, if we're just making one part, I'd say whatever. I'm just going to copy these toolpaths by holding right click when both are selected and dropping below, and I'm going to copy after. And I'm going to go to the facing toolpath. Let's say we wanted a force tool change, and I'd just call this fin face, so it would actually stop the program and act like it's going to do a tool change. Z would go up in most machines. Yeah. And then the only thing I would change is change this to 0. Crossover. I like this to be 50 actually. Let's do 125. All right. No depth cuts, top of stock. I like this to match what it is, so if I ever go look through it later, I know what it's talking about. So we're gonna cut the last little bit, and I'm gonna slow the feed rate down. So we have a nice finish. There we go. You'll notice we're at Z0. Let me show that first pass. So it's 50% of where the stock is, because we were telling it where the stock is, just to show that overlap. Okay, there's our finish face. We're going to come in here. This is going to be our fin profile. We're not going to do a force tool change. Oops, 100. And in this instance, what I'm going to do is we're going to go from a ramp to 2D, turn this to 0, and I'm going to turn multi-passes on. Multi-passes are your friend. We're going to do 3 multi-passes. We're going to keep the tool down, and we're not going to ramp. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same lead in. We're going to just do that profile 3 times at full depth. And we're going to feed from 100 thou above the part at 100 inches a minute here. Let's go ahead and click rapid retract. Okay, that's it. That is our finished toolpath. See how we plunge down. We're still 40 thou above the vise, coming in at the corner. And you'll see this nice little loop around move. And we'll do 3 there. That should take care of toolpath deflection, clean up the walls, make them nice and square. All right, and what I like to do is I just copy this toolpath, and we're gonna go ahead and pick up an 1/8 inch spot drill. This is actually gonna be a chamfer mill, but spot drills are defined exactly how I like them. And you know what? These are usually about 1.5 inches. Shoulder length is gonna be 62.5, cutting length 62.5. This is our chamfer mill. It's just going to be called 1/8 inch chamfer. 1/8 inch chamfer. It's 2 flutes. We're going to run this bad boy at 12,000 RPMs. 100 inches a minute, 100. Go ahead and turn on coolant. Boom, and this is going to be deburr. And then all we got to do is change this to 2D chamfer. These aren't set, so what I want is I want a 10 thou chamfer. And the numbers we have to work with is if we have an 1/8 inch chamfer mill and it's at 90 degrees, we know half of that is the absolute maximum bottom offset we could have with a 0 chamfer. Since we have a 10 thou chamfer, we were going to subtract 10 from that. This is the maximum numbers we could have. However, I do not like cutting right here. We want to move down that part of the flute a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and pick 40. And one thing to note is on this type of tool and this type of toolpath, what it's going to do is add these numbers together, and that's going to be how deep we're going to go down. You'll see here in a sec. I'm going to leave the lead in and out the same, get rid of multi-passes, change this to 0. Yeah, that's our deburr. So I'll show you. We're going to lead in and see how we're at -50. And we're cutting, you know, around the 75–80% of full diameter mark there. That's how I like running my little chamfer mills. And you know what? Let's go ahead and give this guy a holder here. Let's find one that makes sense here. This looks like an ER16 holder. Sure, why not? We'll stick this guy out about 3/4 of an inch. Boom. There we go. Now op1 is done. Ta-da! Alrighty, so go ahead and save it. And then what I like to do is we can go ahead and verify that. Now we could leave, it doesn't like this tool. I knew it was going to do that. Let's fix that. It doesn't like this about the tool. Doesn't like that. So I'm going to actually turn off the vise, and you'll see why here in a sec. I'm going to save it, go to verify. You notice how I'm not getting that error about the tool. It didn't like the fact that the cutting length and where I told it the shoulder was the exact same number. Okay, so you notice how the vise is there, and when I click on fixtures and turn it off, it works. That's because in the other page, we'll go ahead and go back to this. In the work holding page here, I told it that our vise is our work holding thing. So that's a function of the simulator and verify. So it's nice to set up, and then you don't have to have that on. And the reason why I like that is, excuse me, is it's not going to calculate stock removed from the fixture. Like if I program this to run right through the vise, it actually wouldn't calculate it. So it's a little less intensive on the processing. So here we go. I'm going to turn the stop condition to op change. I'm going to move the speed down just a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and start through this. So we got our facing. Go down a little slower. And there's our ramping, the profile. You notice how we're got that nice little 40 thou step above the vise. Facing off the part. Come in and do the finish pass. Whoa, why is that black? Crazy. That is so weird. The version I have at home is set up a little different. That is so weird. I don't know why that thing's black. I bet we can play with the numbers on it. Let's see if we turn the holder off. Weird. That is so weird. Whatever. We could play with it and get it. But yeah, so there we go. We got our first stop done. And if I click on compare, I have my default set to 2.5 thou, and the way I did that is I just typed in 0.0025 and it splits these up into 2.5 thou increments. So if I run compare, what it does is, this is also why I like having the fixture not on when I open verify. It's not calculating that. All it's calculating is what solid was active when you open verify, right? And it's saying, according to these numbers here, green means you're within plus or minus 2.5 thou. So you're finished. So that's it. Op1 is done. These corners have a nice 10 thou fillet on them. There's no burrs at all. There will be sharp edges down here, but we're going to face that off. So that's op1. So now what we're going to do is, let's go ahead and make another level. We're going to call it, Kurt whatever op2. Okay. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to be lazy. We're going to hold on to the exact same amount so I don't have to change my parallels. And we're going to basically flip the vise around the part. And the reason why is so verify works through both setups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all entities, make op2 my main, come over here, copy to op2. It's going to take a sec. And so now we have an op2 and an op1 vise. And just to make things nice and clear, go ahead and use another color. So first thing I want to do is I actually want to rotate the vise about the front of this tool plane. There's a few ways to do that. Let's see what the left looks like. Yeah, that probably works actually. Let's turn the part on. There's a bunch of different ways to do this, but let's turn this guy on. And here's how we're going to do this. We're going to select op2 vise, and I'm in the top like graphics view of the left plane because we're viewing from the side. I want to rotate the vise. So I'm going to go ahead and go to translate, and we're going to move it, and I'm going to move it to, whoa, why is the option weird? There should be an option for, oh, that's why. Let's translate. Duh. Copy. I want to rotate. There we go. I was like, where's the option? I want the rotation center point to basically be, boom, there. And now when I pick 180, it's going to rotate about that point. Actually, let's change that. Let's move about this point. Whatever, it's fine. We'll have to move it a little bit. That's okay. Oh, haha, we have two copies. I copied it. We'll just select this and delete. Turn the part back on. Let's go to our op1 plane and go ahead and create our op2 plane while we're at it. So here we go. Let's see. Oops, let's turn off the stock. This is op1, yes. Okay, I like to just do it this way. I'm going to duplicate this, call it op2. We're going to leave it with that offset. And I just like to do it this way. I rotate incremental about Y, 180, go to top view, right click Z, boom. So now you'll see we have op1 down here, op2 up here. Easy peasy. Okay, so now we have our op2 set up. Let's go back to the vise. And we're going to hold on to the same amount. So we're going to, I guess we can do it this way. Since I did it wrong last time. Take this number. And we want it to be minus 1.625. So I need to move the vise up 950. Translate. Boom. Should be exactly what we want. So we'll measure from here to there. There you go. So now we have the vise set up for op1 holding on to 1/8 of an inch of material, and you'll notice how the vise looks a little below the part because there's stock there. But now it looks like the part's below the vise, which makes sense because we're actually holding on to finished material. So if we wanted, we could create a stock model here, but we're not going to do that because we're lazy. So this is going to be our op2 setup. And what we're going to do is we're going to also go into the stock setup. We're going to go into the work holding page. And now we're going to create from op2 level. And that's how I should have done the first one. So we'll just leave it like that. I believe that's how you did it. Anyway, so now we're basically just going to get rid of the hat. So if we were to, let's do this. This is kind of driving me nuts. I'm going to move the stock solid to that level so I can just see. There we go. I can just see that. So we have approximately 200,000 stock. And what we're going to do is the first toolpath we're going to do is actually going to, I don't know, there's a bunch of different ways. It's not that big of a deal. We could just face it off, but let's say the stock was wider. We could come in with a 2D high-speed dynamic from the outside. Machining region is this. And we're avoiding, I'm going to do a little cheeky thing here. I'm going to select, where's the geo? I'm going to select this guy here. I'm getting cheeky. We're going to use the same 1/2 inch end mill. Oh, haha, it's already called that. That's funny. Sure, we'll say 20 or 10, whatever. Let's take 25 thou. Just nice and easy. And if you're worried, you can offset the first pass. I like to start bottom left. It's totally fine. No depth cuts. We just want to go to full depth. So I'll leave feed plane to incremental. I'm going to right click. Weird. I wonder why I gave it 212. Anyway, we're going to come below the part. Actually, let's see. We profiled 50 past. So if you were worried, you could stay like a little above the part. But we're still going to get rid of the entire hat. So the toolpath is done. All right, so we're starting. Man, that's close. I don't know if I like that lead in. That's way too close for me. Let's go ahead and approach distance. What am I looking for? Oh, that's why. There we go. There was no number. I have all these defaults set at work. So anyway, coming 1/2 inch off the part. And then I'm going to slow this down and turn on this annoying orange stuff. So it's going to gradually lead into the stock and spiral around the part, but you will see that. And if you were ever curious how far that was, you could use analyze inside of backplot. I do this all the time at work. And you could be like, how far is that? 68 or whatever thou. And let's say you really didn't want that because this was like some crazy material. You could go in here and add about 50 thou. Oops. 50 thou to the first pass. You could even slow down the first pass. This is something that's weird about this algorithm that they should probably fix. So you notice how now we just kissed the corner. Same thing, kiss corner. Kiss corner. Boom. I'm going to turn off the orange. And you'll see we're just spiraling in. Nice and easy. And this is a one-way cutting direction, so that's why you saw it backtrack. These brown moves are back feed rates. And those are dictated by this guy here. It's a micro lift and then a back feed rate. Really cool. Helps save tools and tougher, rougher materials. So now I'm going to turn off the vise just to go through here. We could create a stock model, but I'm just going to let it play through the first one. I'll show you this here. Haha. Let's turn that off real quick. This used to be easier. There used to just be a check mark. Like you click on it. Man, this used to be a lot easier. There used to be a way to toggle back and forth really easy. They kind of messed it up. Let's just go ahead and remove whatever. We'll tell it op2. Oops. Oh yeah, it's still on because okay, whatever. They keep messing with this software every year. Whatever. It looks like we already know the first setup was right. Turn that off. So what I'll do is I'll turn off the op stop at tool change and I'll just fast forward until I know we're on this side. So I'll just skip that, turn on stop. There we go. Now this is what our op2 setup looks like. We have this hat. We're holding on to the... Oh, hold on a second here. Let's go fix that. Forgot to do that. This should be 1/8 of an inch. What is it? 175. Let's do this. Select everything minus front jaws and bolts. Is that still selected? Why is that? Oh, that's just the outline. Okay. There we go. And then we're going to move that far. So now we should be touching the real part. Oh, I guess that needs to go back that same amount. Oh, I guess I should have pushed green. Whatever. And then we'll move them forward the same amount. No big deal. How far from here to the real part? 350. So now we'll move all the front jaw stuff that far. There we go. Now we have the real setup. Save it. Now we'll run through. So now we'll just skip through. There we go. Stop. Right there. Turn that on. Boom. This is what I get for being lazy and not doing a stock model. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Okay, so this is what the second op would look like. Now we're cooking. Okay. So we'll go ahead and leave that on. We'll slow things down a little bit. Notice how I just have that little tiny skim on the corners, and then we start coming in. There we go. Okay, so now the second op is started. Okay, So now what I would do is I'd say screw it, just copy this facing toolpath from the first stop, come in here, change the planes to op2, make sure these move over. There we go. Now we got an op2. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. Now we got an op2 setup. Sure, we can rechain it from the right side, although it doesn't matter. And we're actually facing off more. Whoa. And let's go ahead and do depth cuts of 50 thou. And you know what? Let's do dynamic. A couple different ways you could do this, but mainly just for the illustration. Save it. So you notice how we're dynamicing in from there, but we already got rid of the hat. So let's actually change to the profile. And you know what? This is gonna bug me. Let's do this. This is where project comes in handy. I mean, translate or project is fine, but we're gonna just project it to Z0 and we're gonna copy. Boom, I don't even have to think about how far. And we'll just pick that guy. You want to save some time. So now we're only going to start at that guy. Boom. Although I don't like finishing facing with this toolpath very much. So that's our rough face. We're going to copy that guy. And we're going to call this fin face. Divide the feed. Go back to zigzag, change this to 0, turn off depth cuts, go back to absolute, boom. Now we have our single finishing pass. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy the deburr toolpath from the first stop. Come over here, change it to op2. And the chain is going to be the wrong direction. So I'll rechain that. And I don't care where I lead in on deburring toolpath. So we'll lead in the middle of that. And then there we go. That is the Titan-1-1M drafting machining setup. How I would probably actually do it in a machine. Sure, you could hold on to more, but you know, it would work. So yeah, here's what the toolpaths look like. We'll go through verify one more time. 4 minutes. And you can do this part even faster if you wanted. Let's go ahead and run through verify again. Turn off the stock. Just show the part, save it. I like to save the part in a way that's nice to see in the folder menu. You can show what that looks like if you want. There we go. Turn the fixture off. Turn that off and just let her rip. There you go. Run compare. All green. Super good. Hope you enjoyed. Smash the like button. Subscribe for more. Tell me what you think. And have a good one.